This lesson is going to show you how to add in some stems, because obviously these flowers can't float above these leaves forever, as well as any filler details we need, and a shadow, because it's so important to have a grounding shadow with anything that is sitting on the ground. And frankly, a lot of objects that may be up high, shadows are just so important for showing distance and relationship to different objects. Okay, so at this point, we have flowers, we have leaves, we also have a very nice looking vase. So I'm going to hop right in here. I'm going to hide most of my leaves, even those details, and then I'm going to come in. I can always move this layer. It's probably not going to be where it needs to be right now, and just start a stem layer. So I'm going to make sure everything else is locked. And I'm going to get in where I can see a couple of stems, do the same process that I've been doing. Make a few and repeat. Okay, so here's one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this dark green color. He's not going to show up right now. Let's just throw a color on him for now, and then I will show you. Let's go grab a few of our greens. And save these to our swatches. We'll even pull out swatches so we can see them really easily. So that looks pretty dark, but I'm gonna grab him because he probably does have a lot of green in him. It's not gonna let you do it unless it's forward. Ooh. Stem dark. Stem medium. Let's get a real light of a stem. You're keeping these colors so that everything has a nice tone. You're not just grabbing different greens and thinking you can match it. Stem light. Okay, that gives us a few variations, and then we've also got this leaf base that we could use if we needed it. So this guy, he's gonna get turned to our darkest color. Then we are going to fatten him until he takes up about the width of that stem. Next, I'm going to copy and paste in place directly on top of this guy another version. So I'm going to Command C. I'm going to go Command Shift V. Looks like nothing changed. I'm going to change it to the stem medium. Then I'm going to turn down the stroke to very small. You have to play with these sometimes. We're going to blend these two objects. So I'm going to grab these two lines, object, blend, and double check our options. I think it's weird that they don't have all of these things in one rollout window. They should have all the blend options in there. And there's our stem. Perfect. So let's go make a few more. We'll do this guy to get one that's a lighter version. We'll make him base. You have to re-click on your line to get your control panel to show all the options. I'm gonna then Command C, Command Shift V. Looks like nothing happened, but in reality it did. So there he is. Let's make him very faint and blend them. He's pretty light. So what you can do then is go in, double click. So right now I have both, not now. I can still see both lines. See, that's me moving the top one. So I can see he's this color. He's a little too bright, that's fine. Go in and just darken it a little bit. That's gonna darken the whole look. I can grab both and then do shift click to get to the lower one, and I can always darken him a little bit. That's better. Much more in the realm of what's happening. Okay, let's do one more. Although I really don't see any others in there. So maybe we'll just stick with the two we have. I'm going to do mostly dark because I want them, they're just mostly dark. So let's get in here. And we're going to grab, we're going to copy and paste. And we're going to do our trick very quickly of reflecting and hit OK. And we're going to do just a little bit of change so that they're not exact. He is way, way too light on this side. There's just not enough light coming from that side like that. So I'm going to change his coloring altogether. I'm just adjusting these a little bit. I want to have enough variety that I can see them, but I don't want them to be so they're bright, way less bright. Okay, let's grab a few more, tuck those in of the darks. Don't be afraid to do some adjustments because that's okay with this. Don't be afraid to turn things a little bit. You want to be really loose and not get so caught up in being exact. Okay, that's a few stems. For now, let's go see how these really look with leaves. So we'll pop our leaves into there. Stems clearly need to get brought behind. And then stems clearly need to get brought behind that. Okay, close. I want to get a few of these stems, like this guy, he's not showing up at all. So could I grab a few of these and then put them into a layer that is within these leaves? So we've got these. Let's try a layer above. Again, it gives us some variety. Oh, lock, so we're not messing up any of our other stuff. You just want some variety, so that's all I'm kind of trying to do. And you have to give yourself time to spend on that. It's not going to come necessarily natural. Okay. Next, I want those leaves to be on top. It's very close. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is show you another couple of tricks on how to finish this in a quick way. So I'm going to make a couple of tries at adding in a filler color back here. So that's just a little too dark. There's just definitely not enough variation in that. But I can adjust him with a gradient. And change his colors to have some of the dark colors that we're already utilizing. Not just black, right? We want that green. You can always readjust these things if you need to. Great. Next, we're going to do kind of the same thing for covering any of these holes that I can see for the flower. It's going to look probably ridiculous with that. Actually, I didn't do bad. I would think it probably looks funny if you saw it in the back. All right, I think he's looking pretty close. Great. Another thing we could do, like if this is too much green, so let's just go in and throw a couple more leaves in there. Stems, leaves. We'll unlock this leaf layer, copy, paste, and let's just kind of move them kind of oddly, but to fill in some of that. And then move it just right on top of that layer. So it's not getting, oops, redo, cut. At this point, I'm gonna cut, Command X, oop, copy, make a new layer, Command V. Now I can move these guys and place them just right on top of this filler layer. I need to go in and title that. And now I can pop them in there just to give a little bit more variation into that. Let's turn him great. Let's call this filler blocks bonus back leaves. Front stems. Just those couple of front stems so you've got variation. Front leaves, good. Leaves detail, those are my few fine little details. Got my vase and I've got my flowers. Perfect. Last step. Well, let's hit save, Command S. Big piece of the puzzle for me is getting in a really nice shadow. So the way that I create a shadow, you're going to pick the two furthest points. I can already see that the shadow goes off in this direction. I'm going to ignore the book and I'm going to ignore this little coaster it's on. I'm going to try to pick kind of the furthest spot that's still tucked in under the vase. I'm going to use this line right here to draw out the outer edge. I might have to readjust this guy because I want him to hit right about in there and then finish them. So, all right, at that point, now we're going to go just drop in this vignette for now. Go over to your gradient tool, swap it over to a linear gradient. Mine's going the wrong direction. It's super easy to fix. Whoops, start the other way. Probably need to readjust those. Good. Now, the last thing I like to do is I always turn my gradients from a normal blend mode to a multiply. It's not going to show a big difference right here. That's okay. Then I turn down its opacity. So what that does is, let me go show you in the layers, turn this guy off. And let's just step back and look at what we've created. Now this is looking really good. One thing I want to fix is get this to not be perfectly white on the vase. Let's go in and fix that really quick by just barely bringing in some color onto that. You probably do it on one more spot without changing too much of the overall look. Good. Now I've got this lovely little gradient. I can adjust him however I see fit. Okay, so what this shadow turn to multiply does, and make sure you don't have any little corners sticking out of the bottom. See this one? I'm going to barely tap him around using arrows on my key so that he still looks like he's tucked in at the furthest corner. There we go. I love that little thin line. Don't move your whole guy. Make sure you're just getting one point. Okay. Look how much more volume that has, how full that looks, how realistic that's already looking. Hit save, you're almost done. When you're making a shadow like this, the reason I do it, let's just put a color. I'm just kind of, whoops, let's not mess that guy up. I want to make a rectangle and I want to show you if it had a base to it, why you should turn it to multiply. All right, I need to force this layer back. So what happens is when you have this turn to multiply, what it does is it takes the color below it, whether it's red or white or a pattern or whatever, and it darkens that color, creating a shadow look for that color. If you leave it at normal, what can often happen is it ends up looking more foggy because it's just that color with a transparency. So just think about a plexiglass of that color, you know, with some frost over it and kind of looking through that. It's not actually emphasizing the colors below it. It's kind of blocking them in some way. So multiply helps show off those colors below it. If you're trying to lighten something though, multiply is not going to work. It only works with the darks. All right, so that was my tip for that. And at this point, I think that we're done. You know, you could go in and keep tweaking some different points, getting those flowers fleshed in just a little bit more, tucking in some more leaves and more details, getting in some more dots. We've lost our dots. We're going to move those all the way up to the top. There we go. Now I've got a few more dots. And everything looks good. So good job creating some vector realism artwork.